So everybody's talking about the plea that took place in the infamous YSL trial that went on in Fulton County, Georgia. This is the longest trial in history. But before I get into what everybody's talking about, let me go ahead and give shout out to my boy, Keith Adams. Keith Adams was on this trial. Y'all see him. He's the African-American black guy that's in a lot of the videos and the pictures. And then, of course, Brian Still looks like he was the lead attorney on this particular case, but they did a phenomenal job in representing their client. Just to get straight into it, everybody's talking about this plea that was entered. It was surprising. It was a plea that was entered, and it really shouldn't have been that much of a surprise considering that there was a lot of talks of a mistrial, and this trial had gone on for so long, and a lot of the commentary online was like, look, this is ridiculous. The prosecutors in the case were kind of looking pretty shady, and the judge had admonished the prosecution about, the witnesses that they were calling up. Things were backfiring on them. So, there's a chance, a very good chance, that there was going to be a not guilty on this particular case, or mistrial, one or the other, or guilty. Sometimes that can happen. But the bottom line was this. Young Thug entered a plea, and he entered a plea, and when the plea was read, first of all, he did a negotiated plea. So let me just explain to you what a negotiated plea is. A negotiated plea is a plea that you enter into, where you just enter into a guilty plea. You don't have any idea what the judge is going to do. You know what the state is going to ask for. You know what your attorney is going to ask for. And the judge could decide that they're going to do exactly what the state decides to do. They could decide that they're going to do what you or your attorneys want you to do, or they could reject both of you and do what they want to do. So a blind plea, a non-negotiated blind plea, is sometimes, in certain situations, very dangerous. And so in this scenario, that's exactly what he entered into. He entered into a guilty plea that was a non-negotiated blind plea. And so the judge came back with a sentence that basically was all probated, which means that he would not go to prison, he would not go to jail. The caveat was that if he violates his probation, he goes to prison for 20 years. That's the bottom line. Just clear cut. That's what it is. And so, Brian Still had made some comments, and you could tell that, he really didn't want him to enter the plea. A lot of times when we are in cases and we're looking at the jurors and we're listening to what the judge is saying and we're paying attention as criminal defense attorneys, we kind of get the feel of what's going to happen. We kind of get the feel of whether or not you have a very good likely chance of getting a not guilty. And it looks to me, in my opinion, that his attorney felt like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should take a chance. But I understand from the standpoint of the accused, the defendant that's in the case, when you know what your outcome is, and your outcome seems like it's palatable, which is livable, is okay, then you're going to go with that outcome versus taking a chance and depending on, 12 people to decide your fate when you don't know what they're thinking. And I completely understand that. And so in this situation, I think that the judge did a good job of trying to weigh all the different scenarios in this particular case. The judge listened to the evidence, at least from what she could listen to being there at the time and then researching what was done before she got there. And she felt that this sentence was fair to the defendant and at the same time fair to the state. It wasn't exactly what the state wanted, but at the same time it was fair. The caveat to this is whether or not he's going to make it through 15 years. And I'm praying that he does. I'm praying that he does. I'm praying that he does. And he made some points about some of the people that he was around. And that tends to be the issue when somebody's on probation. When you go around the same people that you've been around before that got you in the situation that you're in the first place, you go right back around those same people, that's a problem. But I feel like, it's going to be hard for him. And, collectively, whether or not are in support of him or not, collectively, we want people to have a second chance. And he never had any criminal history. And, that doesn't mean he wasn't doing anything. He didn't have any criminal history regardless. And so we want him to have a second chance. We want him to have a chance. And, there's that old adage, ends and flies, ends and flies. Oh, how we despise ends and flies. And so my prayer is that he really, truly understands that there are people that say they love you. There are people that you think are in your corner, and they want your demise. They don't want you to win. they don't want you to win. And I'm praying that God gives you discernment to separate yourself from those people who don't want you to win. I hope you win. I hope you win.